Pirates. Everyone has heard of Jack Sparrow and his rum, or the guy on said rum bottle, Henry Morgan. But have you ever heard of the history behind some of the places these pirates used for bases? Not all ports were hostile towards pirates. And on that note, I say we go to Number 1. Tortuga in modern Haiti. Tortuga's pirate history dates back to the 1630s, when the island was divided into French and British colonies, which allowed buccaneers to use Tortuga as a base. The island was repeatedly invaded by the Spanish starting in 1635 until the French built a fort called De Rocher, which allowed them to defeat the Spanish. By the 1640s, the buccaneers sheltering on Tortuga began calling themselves the Brethren of the Coast. The Brethren supplied ships visiting Tortuga in exchange for guns and ammo, and saw their height in the 1650s when they were contacted by the English crown to attack Spanish and French ships and defend Tortuga. Peace between Spain and England in the 1670s caused a decline in the use of buccaneers, and many of the Brethren of Tortuga decided to turn to the lumber trade. Number 2. Nassau in the Bahamas. Nassau was founded in 1670 by British nobles and was initially called Charlestown, but that was burned by the Spanish in 1686, so they tried again, building Nassau in 1695. The Spanish occupied the town again in 1703. Following this, there was no government in Nassau, allowing pirates to take over New Providence Island and establish the Republic of Pirates in 1706. This brought prosperity to Nassau, which became the capital. The British returned to Nassau in 1718, however, and put an end to the Pirate Republic. Number 3. Ocracoke Island in North Carolina. Ocracoke Island in the Outer Banks of North Carolina was first sighted by European eyes in 1524. English settlement along the eastern seaboard began to attract piracy to the region, and by the late 1600s, beaches and waterways off the North Carolina coast began seeing use by pirates. In the early 1700s, Ocracoke Island became a hideout for the infamous pirate Edward Teach, aka Blackbeard. It also saw use by other pirates from Nassau, such as Charles Vane and Stede Bonnet. Blackbeard lived in the town of Bath on the mainland and used Ocracoke as a camp to raid from. However, in November of 1718, Royal Navy Lieutenant Robert Maynard led an attack on Ocracoke, killing Blackbeard. Number 4. Libertalia in Madagascar. Libertalia is a mythological pirate utopia that supposedly existed on Madagascar in the late 1600s. Depending on what version of the story you hear, it was either founded by famed pirate Henry Every, known as the Pirate King, who captured the Grand Mughal fleet of India, or a fictional captain James Mission. While Libertalia likely never existed, there are several major pirate settlements on Madagascar. Such is Ranter Bay on the northwest coast, founded by pirate James Plantain, who styled himself King of Ranter Bay. Another such king was mixed pirate Abraham Samuel, who founded the town of Port Dauphin in the south. The arguably most famous pirate base on Madagascar was St. Mary's Island, which was a popular stopping point for pirates, including William Kidd and Henry Every. There is even an old pirate cemetery on the island. If Libertalia was anywhere, it was on St. Mary's Island. Number 5. Barataria Bay in Louisiana. In 1803, the United States bought Louisiana from French leader Napoleon, and in 1807, the U.S. placed an embargo on foreign goods due to increasing tensions with Britain. This presented a problem for New Orleans merchants or smugglers, such as brothers John and Pierre Lafitte, who did most of their business with Caribbean colonies. Thus, the brothers found an island in the Barataria Bay and made a new operation, turning Grand Terre Island into a growing port by 1810 that saw traffic from pirates and smugglers alike. In October of 1812, the Lafitte brothers bought a schooner and began their piracy career. In November, however, the brothers were arrested following a raid on Barataria by U.S. soldiers. They all jumped bail. However, Pierre was arrested again in 1814 under charge of assisting in piracy, but escaped in September. That same month, the British military asked Lafitte for help attacking U.S. holdings in Louisiana, to which Lafitte decided to warn the Americans. The U.S. military didn't believe him at first and staged another raid on Barataria. Lafitte only agreed to assist the U.S. in the Battle of New Orleans, which occurred on January 5th of 1815, if his men were pardoned. Many of the pardoned men either settled in New Orleans or Barataria itself, where their descendants can be found today. Following the War of 1812, Lafitte began to work for the Spanish crown, which was caught up in the Mexican War of Independence. Jean went to Galveston Island, which was a base for several Mexican revolutionaries and privateers who fled the island following Lafitte's arrival. Lafitte proceeded to make Galveston into his new smuggling base. Lafitte named his base Campeche, after the city of Campeche in Mexico. Lafitte turned his town into a pirate port, forging letters of marque so pirates could act as privateers. By 1818, Lafitte's town had over 2,000 people, but conflict with the local Karankawa and a hurricane caused destruction. In 1821, Lafitte was forced to leave Galveston Island, which he did without a fight, burning his town in the process. Number 7. Bluefields, Nicaragua. In the 1630s, a Dutch pirate by the name of Abraham Blauvelt petitioned the English government to establish a settlement in modern Nicaragua, where today a city called Bluefields is. The region around Bluefields had long been used by pirates as a resting point to repair their ships and acquire provisions. The town that grew came to be named after Blauvelt, and later became capital of the Mosquito Kingdom, which was made largely of escaped slaves and native inhabitants of the region. Blauvelt went on to establish another base on Jamaica, in a town there also called Bluefields. He disappears from history following a raid on the city of Campeche in 1663. Number 8. Port Royal, Jamaica. Port Royal was settled by the Spanish in 1509, who initially used the Taino place name for the peninsula the town was built on, Caguay or Caguaya. The English captured the town in 1655, initially calling it Caguay, but changing it to Port Royal. In 1657, the Brethren of the Coast were invited to use the port and defend the town. Port Royal soon became a safe harbor for privateers and pirates, preying on the trade routes along the Spanish Main. Many of Port Royal's privateers had letters of marque from the English government to attack Spanish shipping. By the 1660s, Port Royal was effectively a pirate utopia. The 1663 sack of Campeche was led from Port Royal, and it was from Port Royal that Henry Morgan and his brethren left to attack Panama in 1669. In 1674, Morgan was made Lieutenant Governor of Jamaica, and piracy in Port Royal gradually saw a decline until 1692, when a magnitude 7.5 earthquake caused much of the sand Port Royal was built on to liquefy, causing large portions of the city to sink or be destroyed, and killing roughly half of the population. Today, Port Royal is merely a shadow of what it once was. Thanks for watching.